Hello, this is Lisa LeRose on Connect to Love on PRNFM, and I'm so grateful that you're joining us today. We have a very special get-together with the wonderful Michael J. Russ, founder of Life Move Podcast, and also Scott Robinson, who joined us not that long ago. And if you listened to our last show by chance, we talked about a wonderful word called Mama Wiska, and Michael does a much better job, but it means if one word sums up 7, it was our universal connection to everyone and everything. And continuing on that conversation, there's an author who wrote a book called The Light Between Us, and she said, nobody lives a small life, no one is forgotten by the universe. All of us can greatly brighten the world. And when I read those words, it made me think of the Tibetan monks that I watched create a sand mandala, not just once, but many times. And, what's so fascinating about this painstaking art, it's basically to teach us impermanence, that these millions of grains of sand are painstakingly placed through a very tiny metal funnel that is used. They use a stick to basically rub the metal surface on this rod, and the vibration places the sand on this intricate design. And it usually takes, anywhere from 3 to 7 days for them to create it. And when it's done, they literally deconstruct it by sweeping all the grains of sand together and then taking it out the door and finding its way to a body of water somewhere. And, I just thought about that, of how in this world, we're only here for a short time, but as we are like those million grains of sand, we blend together. We're connected by that beautiful word. So welcome, Michael, and welcome, Scott. I'm excited for this exploration. And Michael, will you do me the honor, because you say it so much better than I do. Mama Wiska, right?
Yeah, I think it's Mama Wiska. Mama Wiska. And I think you were fine. You were fine with it. Great. We are one in the universe. It's a fabulous concept. A reality that we have that we forget about. So, yeah, awesome.
Right.
Well, we were talking about that last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were also talking about how the frequency of the heart connects us to others long after they pass over. And that's why we're so delighted to have Scott Robinson, founder of Lightstream Healing. Welcome, Scott. How are you today?
Thank you, Lisa. Nice to hear from you. And Michael, nice to see you again. I'm doing great today. I'm doing wonderful. Perfect topic, especially if we're going to explore a little bit about mediumship, which really, the topic of love is all about a magnetic attraction toward oneness, right? And that's what our universe is, the universe of love. When I talk about my reading and doing mediumship, it's really just a person is still being attracted somewhat to the earth plane and to humanity, and that we're able to be one with them even if they've crossed over, and we're able to communicate with them and receive messages from them and really interact with them much the same that we might do in everyday life.
Wonderful.
That's and for many of us, I think we had talked about how sometimes, you have signs from those individuals. Now, for you, Scott, when you're working with somebody, a client, somebody that comes to you, and could you just explain to the audience a little bit about what you sense or what you feel or how a loved one might come through in a session with you?
Sure, I'd be glad to. So oftentimes what happens, I would say most of the time what happens, I will be doing a reading with someone. I'm a clairvoyant, clairsentient, medical, intuitive, etc. And as the reading goes on, I will get a sense of an entity, a person trying to approach the reading. And when I say approach the reading, I mean approach the little auric egg that we've built around ourselves, myself and the person I'm reading, or multiple people if I'm reading them. And this energy is trying to enter, if you will. And it's really there, of course. It's just trying to become known. And so I'll begin to sense oftentimes somebody approaching, and there's a certain point in the aura where I look for people who have crossed over, where they might be located, where I can see them more clearly. And at that point, usually what I'm looking at, if it's a big round or oval egg, it's up near the top of that oval egg, a little bit off center towards the right-hand side. I know that sounds weird. I don't know why it's that, but that's the way it works for me. And so as I look there and as I sense that person, I'll tell the person, well, someone's trying to come through here, it feels like to me. And as I focus my attention, my psychic attention toward that area, I'll begin to get a sense, male, female, and then quite oftentimes someone will just kind of pop in. And there they are. And so I'll describe this person to the person I'm reading. You know, they'll always, what I've found is there'll always be an emphasis on some aspect of that person physically, for instance, that denotes that person. We all have physical characteristics that everybody knows. It's almost like a caricature. And I'll tell this person what I'm seeing and say, oh, and then sometimes the people that come in will actually give me their name, or they'll, you know, I'll get a sense that it's a grandmotherly energy or a brotherly energy, etc. And quite quickly we'll get down to the person that it is, and the more we get to it, the more clear they become. And I'll see this person and then describe them to the person I'm reading, and then that connection is very solid then. But we can get messages across, sometimes by word, sometimes usually telepathically and by sign. Get messages across from the person that's passed over to the person that's being read. And they come in oftentimes for that very reason, of course, but to see them because they are a loved one. And so there's an energetic bond of love that is attracting them to the person.
Right.
If we're getting back to the theme of the show is about magnetic attraction of love. So that's what causes that mediumship to take place. Now, many times the person I see, they'll say, well, it'll be like, say it's a grandmotherly feel. Well, I don't really know her. Well, it can be a great-grandmother they've never met. This is quite common, actually. Someone they've never met but is related to them spiritually on the spiritual level. And so just because we haven't met our great-great-grandmother, she will oftentimes come through on a reading because we're all interconnected. Everything is one, and there's no such thing as time per se.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
really well said.
Go ahead.
It is. Such a time that we don't really understand, right? I mean, it's like people, it's something you have to wrap your mind around and be open to. The reality that we live in is can be so harsh for people, and that the latitude of thinking that it's a challenge for them to have the lateral thinking that would embrace such an idea. The question I have is there something going on in our world today that has increased the need or desire for what you do? Is there a connection there at all?
I believe absolutely there is. It has to do with the ray energies present, for one thing. Everything is in cycles. Everything operates in cycles, large and small. Some of them so large and big we don't even see them because they're too huge or large for us to notice, right? Other ones less so, like days of our lives, years of our lives, et cetera. We can see those cycles. But I do believe that there's cyclic energy right now that's available in a stronger manner than maybe has ever been available before. And it's the seventh ray of so-called ceremonial magic. What it really is the spiritual energy and material energy is coming closer together than it's ever been. And that seventh ray, which is now impinging itself within our whole consciousness, allows that to happen more easily than at any other time. Spirit and matter come together to create a third thing. Spirit approaches matter, us, let's say, in a way that then creates or bursts the third thing, which is the person that we're seeing. Or, now this can also apply to concepts, but right now we're talking primarily about mediumship. But conceptually, if we see a vision per se, then the same thing is happening. What I tell a lot of people, of course, people ask me, well, how do I access my psychic abilities? And I do believe everybody has psychic abilities. They're almost easily accessed. They are accessible by everyone, but a lot of people, like you said earlier a moment ago, Michael, is that their lateral thinking is such that it's very hard for them to get into a zone where they can, get a comfort zone around a different concept. And the one word, and we've all heard it before, is allow. Your imagination is a true thing. It's not a fake thing. It exists. And we have to allow our imaginations to be real for a moment. And the more we're able to do that, then the more this comes through. And so I tell young people, and I teach classes on mediumship, and I tell these people, when something comes through, just assume this for this moment, for tonight, just say, this is true. And it may be oddball, or it may be somebody you've never seen before. Nobody, just assume that it's true, because I tell you, 99 times out of 100, it is. It's about the consciousness that's trying to access it that is having problems.
Beautiful. Wonderfully said. Wonderfully said. Thank you for that.
I'm curious, Scott, because a lot of people may feel things. Could you go into a little bit about like some of the subtle energies, or you talked about that auric field. So for our audience members that may not understand what that is, would you mind explaining a little bit about what you're seeing or the energies people emit that each one of us would have the ability to tune into?
Yeah, certainly I would. And there's different ways that, again, I'm a clairvoyant. I've been a clairvoyant since I was the youngest child. I've always been clairvoyant. It's my, quote, go-to part of myself. I see pictures. I see things in my head. Early when I was younger, it was hard to believe in myself. I didn't allow I thought, well, you're being told as a child, that's your imagination. You're not looking in reality. That's a bad thing to do to a child or anyone. But anyway, so what I see is a field of energy, perhaps. And in my own self, when I'm looking at it clairvoyantly, and by that I mean in my mind's eye, see, that's a real place. And a lot of people say, well, that's not a real place. You're just imagining that. Well, yes and no, but it is a real thing. That's where you have to allow. But what I see is I call it like an ovoid. I just see an area of energy. When I do a reading, I'll tune in on the person. I'll see an area of energy around them. And that energy contains colors. It contains like wind blowing the colors around through this auric egg, if you will. There's symbols that I see, oftentimes animals or other things, or even streams, mountains, etc., that mean things intuitively. That's my intuition supplying a language for me to use to interpret what I'm really seeing with the person. So when you start to read or begin to access that, you just have to be open-minded about what you're seeing and realize that everything has a deeper symbolic meaning than what it may appear on the top. And so for me, that's where I start. As you really, if you would want to know how to access that, for me, I mean, it's just natural. That's who I am. I've always been this. But I just get in a calm place, close my eyes usually, but I don't have to close my eyes. I oftentimes read with my eyes wide open, just kind of look up. I may have people that tell me, well, your hands are moving and doing certain things. Well, I guess they are. I don't know. Sometimes I'm not even aware of it. It's because I'm in that energy. I'm feeling that energy with my etheric body. That's my energy body. That's the real physical self, because you can also see clairvoyantly, but you can also see etherically, and you can see etheric open auras, and that's with your eyes wide open. And I'll look at a person, and under the right conditions, I'll see a big, what appears to be a shimmering soap bubble, let's say. And on that bubble, you know how that bubble, if you've looked at one, as it undulates, little colors swirl across it and all this, and it's undulating. That's kind of what I see around a people sometimes. And there'll be primary colors there. There'll be other colors. And that etheric vision is something that's becoming more and more common. Again, this is a result of the energy of spirit and matter moving in close proximity, closer than they've ever been in the history of this planet. And so that's why so much interest now in spiritual things, in energetic learning, phases of understanding. People call it dimensions. That word, yes and no, has meaning for me. It doesn't have meaning for me. But it's just the way I see things. And so that's happening more and more. It's becoming, quote, easier. But when all these things begin happening like they're happening now, there's also conflict with that, within ourselves and within groups of people, within the planet as a whole, within our planet in relation to other planets, etc. That mixing of new energies, that ability to see right now new energies, causes conflict. And much of what's going on the planet now is a form of conflict which, when resolved completely, will be absolutely a peaceful oneness.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Something to
we got to get there quick.
For. Yep.
We're going to get there fast. Any way we can get a magic carpet to that to get us there?
Yeah.
No,
we
sure.
do indeed. It's part of the evolutionary process where spirals were spiraling up, and we reach a certain point. Oh, I've arrived. Well, just look up above you, and there's continuing spirals. But during the height of these various types of conflicts that go on all around us, within our own life, etc., during the height of that, it can seem chaotic and even hopeless, and it leads to much problems. But in the end, and the result will be a higher understanding, an everlasting peace that has been described throughout history, and not just recent history. I mean, hundreds of thousands of years in the literature and in the signposts that we can see, this golden age, so to speak, that some people said was back in the 1500s. No, that was not it. It's coming now upon us as the seventh ray congeals and gets its full force into effect in the sign of Aquarius, which our Earth is now passing into. And when these things all come together, you're going to have this so-called golden age. There's going to be, in much the same way in the past Piscean age that we're coming out of, or really I've almost completely come out of now, where it was about the individual and about, the strength of an individual to grasp their own direction and find their own individual God. Aquarius is about the group understanding. And we are approaching that and entering that. And there's going to be changes in our Earth society and humanity that really can't even imagine now. And it's going to involve group understanding. And with that group power,
I love it.
That's where we're heading. That's what's happening. And again, a lot of so-called conflict. But if you look at it on the positive side, the so-called conflict is really just a resolution of choppy waters.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I see it. A resolution. Yeah, that's great.
And I think our last conversations got you explained it as a birthing process, and that that it's not, the result is amazing, but that there is going to be some discomfort. And I don't remember where I was reading it, but there was a quote that talked about, if you plant a seed in the desert, yes, the seed is in soil, but it's also in hot sun. So it could be completely cooked, and so it won't grow. And I sort of thought about that, and I thought, well, here, that's sort of what we're doing. We're planting seeds, but we're not. What can we do, from an energetic standpoint, if we plant those seeds so that they don't get cooked, so that we can flourish and really, from a heart level, connect and, really bloom where we're planted, I guess is what my question would be.
Well, and that's a beautiful analogy, Lisa, and I think along the lines myself. If we planted a seed, then we throw fertilizer into the area where the field is, so to speak. And in that field, the weeds are going to grow just as vigorously as the flowers. But the flowers eventually, being of a higher vibration than they simply are, at the end of the day, they will choke out the weeds. But during that process of growth, good and bad, so to speak, both flourish momentarily. But I do believe, and personally I've always believed, we live in good. There's positivity. There's not the ultimate end to all of us, into the universe, so to speak. It's not bad. It's good. It is a resolution, as we were talking about, Michael, right? And so it resolves toward the positive. It resolves toward the higher spiritual reality. That's a law of the universe. And so that's where we're heading now. But during that process, like you said, that hot sun can cause damage. And that hot sun is just pure spiritual energy that many people aren't prepared for now because they haven't incarnated in a body that's fully ready to accept that energy. I would say everyone, because we incarnate over and over, and every time we reincarnate, we have slightly higher capabilities within our physical body because we've attracted to our etheric energy field particles of a slightly higher vibrational level than before. And this goes on and on over eons of time, millions upon millions of incarnations. And as this goes, we gather to ourselves slightly higher vibrational particles over and over and more. And the more we gather these particles, the higher of a vibration we're able to feel. That's why some of the very highest beings that still oversee our planet are unable to now incarnate in a physical body because there's simply not enough matter of a high enough vibrational frequency for them to gather a body into existence. So they exist only on the etheric levels and higher, such as the Buddha. And this is what's going on. But we all are going in that direction. I love it. I think it's beautiful.
Wow, it's
fascinating. Yeah, we just have to get there.
we
just have to get there.
Yeah, last week, Scott, we were speaking about Michael's mother, who was she's still in this world. She's a beautiful, amazing woman who really, I guess, set standards for, and as so Michael and his family traveled throughout the world as he was growing up, and his mother really, I guess, how would you word it, Michael? She set a precedence.
I guess the way I would probably describe it is that she set a goal to make sure that we were exposed to as much of the world as possible when we were younger, so that when we were older, we would have the ultimate contrast between where we were and where we've been, and that it would help shape our view of the world in a positive way. And I think she succeeded beyond all measure because my view of looking at the world at this particular point, and my brother and my sister, are completely different than others that we know, even in our own family. Because I tell young people when I talk to them that you have to leave the nest. You have to jump out of the nest and go and experience the unknown, things that you go to places. I'm so in awe of people. I never backpacked around Europe because I never needed to. My family always made sure that we got on a plane from wherever we lived in Asia or Europe or Asia Minor. We got on a plane and we went to see places. And I went a couple places on my own. However, if you get together with a couple of people, young people get together and leave the United States and go travel to other worlds, other cultures, you get a sense of the world that helps shape the idea of oneness. The issue, and I think the biggest challenge, is that it is for some people a lot more of a challenge to develop a sense of oneness when you have nothing but division where you are. You have to get out and meet other people and see that they're just like you and experience their culture and how different it is from your own in order to appreciate the concept of oneness. One thing I've always discovered, and that is that people around the world, no matter where they are, conflict areas, peaceful areas, doesn't matter where it is, whatever culture, Islamic, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, it doesn't matter. Everybody wants the same thing. They want the ability to get up in the morning, go make a living doing something they love and enjoy, and be able to, if they have a family, raise children that respect them and the world, and have the ability to grow and be whoever it is they want to be. That is a challenge in many areas of the world. Evidently, there are 27 conflicts going on around the world. I have no idea where the other 25 are. However, there's conflict, and I thought of this earlier, Scott, when you said it's resolution. And I think to myself, gosh, how long is this resolution going to last? I mean, it may last for 100 years. I mean, who knows? We're a speck of sand on a beach in the universe with regard to our planet, our cultures, and everything. We're so highly insignificant when it comes to the trillions of galaxies that exist out there in the world, and it's mind-blowing to think that that's what we've got. But we think we're all that is. And no, we're not. And it's like, man, listen, you got to wrap your mind around it. No time, no space. The past, present, the future all exist in the same space, and their eyes start to glaze over, and you're like, what? And then it's what you read in the paper, it's what you see on TV, it's what the people in your community or your friends are talking about, and that's your world. Well, my mother didn't want that to be our world. She wanted us to have a bigger view of the world, and I think she succeeded. So we're all shaped by our experiences and our life circumstances and how we respond to them. And I can say that I have probably, no exaggeration, forgot about more than most people have actually experienced. I forgot more experiences than most people have had in their life. And I love it when I get together with my family, like I did this weekend in New Orleans, and we sit down for dinner and we start talking about stuff that, about where we were and what we did and how that happened, and finding out how my siblings actually experienced it, and we were in the same place at the same time. So it's rather fun.
Oh. So, Scott, I would ask you then, are these beings that you talked about that are not incarnate, but they're sort of watching over us, are they working in the same way on our behalf?
Good question.
Yeah, they are. There are super advanced beings that started in humanity and have advanced beyond that point, who are still take our planet under their care, so to speak. The Buddha being one. Christ, of course, still doing that, and energies, the prophecies say that the Christ energy will return again, male or female, who knows. But that energy is always present, and that is the energy of creative birth itself. That's the result of love. The Christ energy is love. Because spirit and matter meet together and form a new body, a new entity, so to speak. It's the birthing process that we talked about. And so these beings are watching over us, so to speak. Do they have day-to-day control in our lives? That you would ask, well, why is the world the way it is? It's because there's free will involved here. There's karma involved here, a thing which is, you just don't, willy-nilly, you just don't mess with that, so to speak. Christ was able to heal various people, and there's reports, it's recorded that he did this and that. But what most people don't think about is whenever he did that, he took on tremendous amounts of karma, but he's such an advanced being, as is the Buddha and other beings, there's many of them, they're so advanced that they understand the total long-term ramifications of manipulating karma. But that kind of power, so to speak, is not given to anybody. You earn it through your evolutionary process. We will all be that being at some point in our development, in our total evolution as an entity, as a consciousness. But it's, that kind of power is generally not allowed, and by allowed, it makes it sound like there's a police force watching. It doesn't work like that. It's just simply that energy cannot be manipulated without an input of a certain other type of energy or force. And the only way we develop that is through evolution, that ability to manipulate forces, the evolutionary gift, if you will.
Sort of like for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. Is that in a nutshell? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, karma is, many people focus on, it's bad karma or it's going to be an eye for an eye type karma. Karma is really nothing more than a leveling or a oneness of an energy field, right? And if something comes in, regardless of what that is, within that field, within that aura of a person, a planet, a nation, whatever, and disrupts that, well, there's going to be a leveling, a settling down of that eventually. That's karma. And so, if good or bad, there's more good karma than there's bad karma. I'll argue that point with anyone. So that's what really it means is there's going to be a juxtaposition between forces and energies which allow for a oneness. And we're all striving toward that. The universe is striving toward that day, if you will, when complete oneness is achieved. And after that, well, something else. But that's what we're doing. And that oneness already exists. And because it already exists, we're able to access it on certain levels and more and more and more now. And we access that area of oneness. And when you access the eternal now, which is oneness, then you have also access and ability to have complete knowledge, right? Complete understanding, if you will. And that understanding leads to a complete identification with oneness.
Wow.
You got to love it. You
Absolutely.
got to love it. I mean, here's a question for you, Scott. I just got a wondering this, because the people that you give readings to, are they getting it? Are their lives taking, their thought process, I should say, do they take a different tack? Do they move in a different direction? Are they transformed by the information that you give them?
I wish I could say yes. But the truth is many people come to me for all types of, I'll answer any question about anything. And there are a lot of questions that people have over and over again, money, relationship type questions and all that. But the truth of the matter is sometimes we all learn slowly and experientially, I believe. Now, I can give information which I believe is absolutely correct and will change this person's life. And I make suggestions as to, a field of meditation, a field of study, or to follow me more closely in some of the things that I teach, that I believe in all of my heart, because this is what I do, will change them forever. But a lot of people, they hear the information, they're, wow, oh my gosh, wow, that's so true. And, oh, yeah, they'll call me back up. You're exactly 100% correct. This happened, that happened, this happened. I say, well, yes, thank you. That's a validation, of course. But did you learn it? I'm thinking, did you learn anything from that, right? Did you access for a moment a belief system which just now stands outside of the current one that you possess? And so that's what I'm really trying to do, and what you're trying to do, Michael, you're trying to do, Lisa, is we're trying to allow people, it's all about allowing, to access a different part of their knowing. And this show does that. You guys do that. I try to do that. And so many times when I do read them, it does set them on a different course.
Wow.
And, you got to want to do that. And the information's there. We take what we can use and we, discard the rest. So, yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah.
As to your question, yes, many times people change forever. Significant. They have an expansion of consciousness that leaves them never the same person that they were before. And when I see that in my own self and in others around me, or perhaps I feel like I've nudged somebody in that direction and helped them achieve that, nothing gives me more fulfillment and satisfaction with knowing that, now someone is further along their own personal path than they were before, and that's also going to help me because they're going to drag me with them.
I love that explanation, by the way. I don't know. It's one thing that I know we want them to get it. We want them to get it. We want them to be a forever change in moving down. We want them to evolve, to go through a shift away from the 3D nightmare that exists out there of the drama and the toxicity and the negativity and all the information that is absolutely useless and inconsequential, to understand that there is a higher level they can live from, where they can observe what they're exposed to in a different, and process it in a different way. And the one thing I understand is that not everything you say is going to be, or tell someone is going to be absorbed as a whole, that there may be a few bits and pieces that apply to them in their life right now, but they may not need the entirety of it for even another 10 or 20 years when they've reached a certain level of understanding in their life. Lisa, what is it that, I know you do energy work and you do some other things. I'm going to pose the same question to you about, people's own awareness and how they, and whether or not they get it and they understand that they move closer to, I guess, if we're moving all towards closer to oneness, it begins obviously within us. Do you feel, or do you have people come back to you and kind of say, hey, this is kind of helped me live a different life, or embrace a different kind of thinking?
Oh, 100%, Michael. What is so fascinating is, for me anyway, one of the hardest lessons I've had to learn, and I'm sure Scott and even you, Michael, can relate to this, is that you can't want something more for somebody than what they want for themselves. And so oftentimes when I offer insights or information, or I have something that would be like the golden key, if that person is not ready to receive it, they won't even hear it, see it, touch it, whatever. However, a lot of times when I'm in a space, and I'm sure that, sometimes, and I'm sure, Michael, you don't probably realize, but I'm sure that you are channeling information that you share with individuals.
Oh, I know I am.
There is something that comes through that doesn't make any sense to you whatsoever, but you think, well, you know what, I'm just going to say this is going to sound really strange. And I was actually doing a session with somebody that was a complete stranger at a class that I was participating in, and I looked at this man and I said, you're going to think I'm absolutely nuts. And I basically took this, it was almost like a staff from the ground. I could see it, and I put it in his hand, and I said, and as I'm putting this staff in your hand, I'm seeing all of these animals come around you, and they're just, they're alighting on your staff, and they're on your shoulders. And he said to me that he was a naturalist park ranger. I knew nothing about him. And how I could, access that at that time. But I think, what was the point of, you could say, well, what was the point of, connecting with that information? What I saw from him was his beautiful heart. It was that unconditional caring, not for just the animals and the planet, but it was for other people. That was really who he came here to be. And he actually thanked me, and he said, I really doubt sometimes that I took the right path, because, in society it's about achieving, and it's not a prestigious job. It's more low key, and you're doing things behind the scenes. You're never really recognized. But for him, it was the recognition of all of these creatures that came out and were sort of thanking him for the service that he did. And I'll never forget that. I still get a little bit choked up by it, because it really matters. Everybody matters. Every person is an intricate piece of the puzzle, and we all matter, and we have talked about that many times. So yeah.
Everything matters in the grand scheme of things. It is the most amazing thing to wrap your mind around, is that everything is interconnected. And I was telling somebody the other day, and Scott, you can shed some light on this. I was told once that it's possible. Actually, this person was pretty firm about it, and I'm not quite certain, which is why I would love to have your opinion on it. That you haven't everybody that you run into, the people you run into in this lifetime, whether even it's just bumping shoulders, grazing, or whatever, it's very likely that you've run into them, that you've had a connection with them in a different life, one of your past lives. What do you think about that, Scott?
I think that's true, because we, again, this goes to the concept of groups, ever larger groups that eventually will come back to oneness. Let's say the group of souls, the group that now occupies humanity on this planet at this point in the years, right? In this point within the eons, this group of souls as an entity itself, which it is, all the human souls, which some people theorize is approximately, let's see, what was it, 13 billion, 14 billion or something at any one time in and out of incarnation, represent one group. And this group has been traveling together as a group of souls, as a soul entity for eons, forever, infinity. And so, so if we're on this planet now, at this time, not only have we chosen this time to incarnate, we're incarnating with people that come down individually that we've seen and met before, we've interacted with before. Everyone.
Other than our existing soul group that's here to help us move forward. I've always been in love with the idea of Michael Newton's idea that, well, he's proposed it in his book, but he's not the only one, that we have that the people we know that are closest to us are not there by accident. that we're helping them and they're helping us. Yeah, they're helping us and we're helping them.
100%. And you can carry that concept quite far in a lot of different directions. What, for instance, if someone is born infirm and very much unable to care for themselves and needs complete custodial care by someone else for that entire existence, this lifetime, so to speak, and then goes, that poor person, and all that. Well, how about the fact that person as a soul chose to give the opportunity of caring to the person who's caring for them? And so they made that sacrifice in order to allow that to happen. As a soul, that's what we will do. And see, now my whole body's buzzing, so that's a very potent truth right there, I feel. And so
no kidding.
We have to look at it on a larger framework, right? So when we see bad or people, there's naysayers and there's negativity out there and fear, which is based in fear, there's a positive spin to everything. There's a positive spin to everything. I choose to try and be that. I'm not perfect. I have fearful moments. I have anxiety, like everyone else on the planet. But I choose consciously to be positive and growing in the direction of oneness with God or the creation, whatever you want to call it. I choose to be growing in that direction and identifying with that ultimately as a consciousness large enough to identify with the complete whole.
Yeah, the Mama Whiska.
Yeah, the Mama Whiska,
right?
The oneness, the challenge. Yeah, absolutely. The challenge of life is to maintain that mindset, to maintain that train of thought. That's the challenge, because there's so much easy to do when you're sitting up, on a 10,000-foot monastery in Nepal, where you've got no outside distraction. Nobody telling you, hey, do the dishes, clean up your room, why don't you ever mow the lawn? I'm just like, it's the challenge is to actually, these are real circumstances that occur to people every single day. The beauty of it is, and I think about this all the time, is that nothing is by accident. Nothing is an accident. Nothing is a coincidence. No. That there's a structure, a divine structure to everything that occurs in the universe, and it's a wild way to live, when you're actually embracing that 24/7, and it can shake you out of that mindset. Can shake you out of an anxious situation, or a situation where you're involved in drama and other things, because they're really, in the grand scheme of things, insignificant. I tell people this all the time. The 24-hour rule is, it isn't going to matter tomorrow. Why invest personal emotional capital in it today? Be very careful about how you dole out your, as I call it, emotional capital, your energy, your thoughts, your feelings, how much you commit to situations and circumstances. Seeing them in a different way gives you the choice to either commit or not commit exactly what's necessary, instead of overcommitting, where you become exhausted and worn out by what's happening. I know people who when I was living in California, who would engage in road rage because they couldn't control what was going on outside of them. And that's just, it's a shame. It happens in most major cities when you're stuck in a traffic jam that you didn't expect. However, it's moving beyond that initial low-frequency thinking to be able to embrace a higher consciousness and look outside the box. And maybe, maybe you're stuck in that jam for a reason. Because if you weren't, you might have been engaged in something else that was even more distasteful to you. Anything could happen, and I find that engaging with people, relationally connected, that really helps to understand, to adopt the mindset of, why am I here, and what's the reason why I'm connecting with this person? How can I help them? How can they help me evolve into in terms of consciousness? Even though you're dealing with some kind of 3D level situation, you're returning a shirt or a pair of shoes. Those are just opportunities to engage with that person, and it's fun to embrace that the Mama Weska when it comes to that. It's so much fun, and I hope our listeners can, at least if they take nothing else from this, be able to engage consciously with people in real time, in the moment, present moment, with people with a mindset of oneness instead of separation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a saying by one of the Rinpoches, the Tibetan lamas, and he says that the root of your life problems become non-existent when you start to cherish others. And I thought so much about that when you look at somebody that really has meaning to you, and it may be because there's an accident or they're close to losing them on this earth plane, that everything sort of falls away when you drop into that heart space and you cherish somebody. And, I cherish this time with both of you and with our audience. It is so powerful and so important for us to connect and to really be in that space of oneness and to love one another. And Scott, I'd love for you to share with our audience members how they can get in touch with you. And so would you please do so?
Thank you. Thank you for that opportunity. Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, I'm on Instagram under Scott Robinson or Livestream Healing. They can catch me there. I'm also on Facebook as Psychic Scott Robinson. And my telephone number, people can call me if they'd like to speak and make an appointment with me, 770-596-9656. You can get in touch with me any of those ways. I'd love to hear from anyone. When you were talking just a moment earlier, Mike, if I might just throw this in here about, cause and effect and how that everything, there's no coincidence, which I totally believe these things. The beauty of cause and effect is that as you approach true love, you approach true intuition. And intuition means there's no linearity of thought between cause and effect, there's no linearity of action between cause and effect. You have instant knowledge. That's what intuition is. So we should talk about that sometime. It really goes all along with what we've saying today. So thank you guys for having me.
Instant knowledge.
I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
There's
the rain cloud of knowable things. The Akashic records are just a minor part of that, but that concept comes from that fact, that intuitional knowledge. We must. I really appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah. I'm so grateful that you could join us, Scott, because I think that your message is so important, to know that we are watched over, whether it be by angels or guides or teachers or masters that help enlighten us and sort of direct us and, allowing us to have that free will to make mistakes. But, we're sort of just like, children, that we will make mistakes and not to beat ourselves up and to know that we can grow and really connect. And, Michael, I'd love for your comment and allow us to hear what your thoughts are, because you always have such a wonderful way of wrapping things up and summing things up.
Isn't life amazing? Isn't life absolutely amazing? I can only say that this has been one of those roomy moments where there's something I do not know, the knowing of which could change everything. And a thing I embrace every single day, and I think it's a great way to live, because there's always something that you can learn that's going to take you closer to what we're talking about today, to oneness, to connection, the connection that you're looking for in your life, to bring you closer to connecting with someone you haven't connected with before, what you're really looking for in life. There are opportunities out there every single day because that's what, when you put a wish out in the universe, when you imagine, as Scott was talking about earlier, the power of imagination, we're going to have a show just on that, by the way, with Scott, because that is a super powerful concept. When you imagine and you bring it to life, you are actually giving yourself the opportunity to realize it. You're manifesting it right there in real time. It's really beautiful. But for our listeners out there, I just wanted to say, Connect to Love podcast. If you want to hear this again, if you want to share this with someone, Scott's wisdom is amazing. So is yours, Lisa. And I know that these shows deserve to be listened to a second, or third, or fourth time, because you're going to get something you didn't get before. Because as Scott said earlier, what you may not be ready for everything that's being said at any given moment. However, when you're ready for it, I'm sure you'll be intuitively guided to listen to the podcast. So please do, and share it with other people if you can. All right? See you on the Life Moves podcast. Beautiful. It's awesome.
Absolutely, on live stream. Thank you. And so it is, and blessings to you all.